We're ready to go, and we are now recording.
Okay, we have been requested by Metro staff, solid waste staff, for a special board meeting to consider a request. We will call this special board meeting to order at 5:49 on Wednesday, December the 2nd. Mr. Flood, do you have a presentation, or Mr. Hackett?
I do have a presentation, and this will be kind of Keith and me jumping in. Director Burns has not been able to make a good audio connection for some reason, so she's good with us moving forward. So I'm going to just go ahead and share the screen. Okay, can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is basically the agenda. This is the only item that's on here, which is this resolution for this appropriation of $280,000. And this was brought to us from a letter from the Director Burns on behalf of Metro government. And this letter is asking us to consider an appropriation of $280,000 to help the department move forward with purchasing large recycle carts, which would allow them to go to every other week recycling. And it would also help secure over $1 million of other grant funding. So that's the reason that they're here to ask. So how this all started, with the recycling partnership, and I believe that we kind of discussed this with the board before as a potential ask, not the kind of ask, but as an ask. So we've been working with the partnership since 2018, and we found out that there was a $280,000 put into the Metro budget the last fiscal year. And once we heard that, we started working under the assumption that those funds had been secured. And that's when we got really deep into the funding with the partnership and CERTIC, which is another grant that we're working on in conjunction with the partnerships grant. And everything was going great until recently when we were made aware that the Metro Council intended to fund this project from Waste Management District budget, which is an issue, as you guys know, because you guys have final say over that budget. I think initially what we had thought was that this was the way it was written was with the 109 board approval, and we didn't realize that it was, you couldn't tell what cost center it was coming out of. We thought that this was the 109 board approving the purchase of these cards, which you didn't have to do anyway. So it created some confusion. And so we got towards the end of this and we figured out that, hey, we don't have these funds secured. So our only thing that we can do at this point is come to you guys as the waste board and ask you to consider what the Metro Council's request was, which was $280,000. And we just wanted to kind of go over a little bit about what this is. And as you can see, this is the grant cost and funding. Yes, sir.
Can I interject something real quickly?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Waste Management Board, I want to tell you, also share with you that this came to us initially as a pilot project. They asked us to do a project and just like 1 or 2 routes, and they would give us the money to purchase the carts. But we told the council that it was logistically, operationally possible to do a pilot for 1 or 2 routes the way we run our routes. That's how all this came about. That's why when we said we thought we was given the money, it came from a request from Metro Council for us to do a pilot project. And then we learned, and people continue on, then we learned 6 months later that the language needed to be that we come to you all as opposed to them funding it for us. So I just kind of wanted to let you know that this started as a pilot, but we told them it wasn't feasible. We went on ahead and paid for it. The division paid for a audit that cost about $30,000. We did that already, where we had a company come in to audit all the bins that were in the USD and to verify that number. That's how we came up with the 28,000 carts to give to people who have 10-gallon bins so that we can go to every other week. So what you don't see on here, we failed to put on that. The cart audit has already been done and division has already paid for that.
So this is the way it lays out. $280,000 is what we need, and that $280,000 would get us $721,000 from the partnership, the recycling partnership, and $350,000 from the CERTIC. Just a little bit more about. Wanted to tell you about your budget in case you want to consider this. Right now, this is as of November, middle of November. So we still have the rollover amount of $1.2 million. Everything else is going well. We're over halfway through our license fee income coming in from the quarterly fees. So we're ahead of schedule on our revenue, and our expenses are right where they need to be. I was asked to kind of give a breakdown of what we've spent thus far this year and last. So I put this together, and we've gotten the F450 state bed, which we still don't have. So that bill hasn't come due. The 2020 Ford Escape Hybrid is another one that's been ordered, but it still hasn't come through, $26,000. The Hubbard's Lane Recycling Center, which was 93, which was a little bit more, but we ran into problems. And then the front load truck and dumpsters, which was a partnership between the district and Metro government. And that one's the biggest sum, which was about $384. But it's also the truck is purchased based upon a 4 to 5 year lease. So we're not paying all of this up front this year. I think it's about $60,000 a year for the next 4 or 5 years. As part of that, we agreed that Metro government agreed to conduct these pop-up drop-offs, which we've had 3. And so far, they've went exceedingly well out in the county, and they're averaging just under $11,000 each. So that kind of gives you a little bit about what we've spent. Now, the previous year, we didn't have any big expenditures and nothing to go back on anyway. And the only thing that I can recall that was up above the mark was an approval for the Recycle Coach program, which is an annual subscription. And I think everybody remembers what Recycle Coach is about. What we still have on what we had planned when we presented the budget to you guys this year was still these 2 things are remaining. One is the Recycle Right program, which we anticipated about $80,000, but due to COVID, it's kind of been delayed. And even if we get it off and get people going, it would be in the spring. So that $80,000 would actually be probably less than $15,000 at this point. The tire industry we just conducted, but I don't have the numbers back on how much that event cost us, but I do not believe that it's going to be more than $20,000. So the goal of this grant is, number one, to increase recycling and landfill diversion rate, to transition the department into every other week collection, to reduce litter generated from small bins with no lids, and to educate the importance of recycling through the distribution of the containers. The grants are on a year-to-year basis. We anticipate a 3-year rollout, so it's important to remember that this is the first year. And with that goal is to get enough of these carts to go into every other week collection. And then the second and third year would complete a distribution to all households within the urban services district. We are only talking about tonight this first year. So that's what this $280,000 is about. How will it impact? Currently, you can see how many households we service and the annual recycling tonnage of 11,150. It's been pretty consistent there, which is about 264 pounds per household per year. Postcards, and this is according to all the other cities that the partnership has changed over from bins to carts. The amount goes up to about 425 pounds per household, which is a significant jump. Now, what that would do, it would increase the department's curbside recycling rate from 22.6% to 28%, which is big. And it would increase the countywide rate from 16.3% up to 18%. And we've talked about the recycling partnership before, and this is what they do. And they do this all around the country: technical assistance, grants, research, measurement. They're out there doing stuff with a lot of different agencies and supporting recycling across the country. This is their funders. These are the people that are out there that if they give us this grant, this is where the money's coming from. And so this is their overall impact, which is very large across the country. They've actually, as far as carts placed, they've placed over 712,000 recycling carts in cities across the U.S. CERTIC, which is one that you've probably not heard of, which is the Southeast Recycling Development Council. They're just a regional group that is doing basically the same things, very similar to what the recycling partnership is. And, they basically the same mission and vision. And again, these are the same funder, or a lot of the same funders. So that's a little bit about CERTIC. So that is basically what I have as far as the presentation. And I will say this, we didn't anticipate to be in this position, to have to come to the board. It would be a huge benefit to the department and recycling in general in Jefferson County if you guys agree to this. But it's totally up to you guys. And, we understand the position and the responsibilities that you guys have as a board. And we would just ask that you consider this. And I'm willing to, and Keith, I'm sure, is willing to answer any questions that you may have before we look at taking a vote on the resolution.
I'll start out. I have several questions, and I was trying to do some figuring while you were going through those slides. What would it reduce the rollover amount to? I'm coming up with approximately 800,000 would remain in the rollover.
Well, what I would anticipate, Bob, is that it would only slightly decrease it, because I anticipate that we would again have a surplus according to our budget this year. So with all those expenses, I can't really tell you exactly how much it would go to, but I believe that it would probably come down into about the $1 million to $1.5 million range is what our ending rollover would be for the end of this fiscal year.
Right. Because what you're doing, you're adding on to over from this year as well. We might get down to 800, like you say, Bob, if you do a quick calculation, but what will roll over will put us back up to what Pete is saying without, getting into the nitty gritty. But That's about right, because we get what 200,000 a year rollover.
Mhm.
So that's where we are. We're kind of taking on the average, what's been rolled over every year. And it looks like this year we're kind of ahead of schedule, even more this year, with collecting fines and whatnot and collecting fees.
My next question, thank you, Keith, Pete. My next question is exactly what this grant, am I understanding this correctly? This grant would purchase 28,000 carts.
That's correct.
And how many bins are out there right now?
Well, that was part of one of the biggest things that we have to do is do a recycling bin and cart audit, which has already been conducted, as Keith had mentioned. They did this over a 3-week period because you can't do it just on 1 week because not everybody sets out every week. So we're not sure because all the data has not been brought together from all 3 weeks what that number is going to be. But I believe that people with bins that we currently see is probably less than that 28,000. We won't know for sure until we get that data.
So theoretically, when recycling started in the old city of Louisville, everybody was given a bin, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And so it's something like 28,000 are actually using them now, or
No, that was the guesstimation of what we would need to replace the bins in the USD.
And that is, and I guess, Bob, this is maybe what you're getting at. That is the current recyclers.
Right.
So it's not including anybody that may have a bin, but they just don't recycle at this point for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah. We're looking at tangible bins that we can count, not counting carts. This doesn't go for cart folks, because they already taken care of. It's just those who have bins that are participating.
so correct me if I'm wrong, then what this grant would do would be to give everybody who's participating right now a cart.
Yes. Those that don't have a cart already. People have been able to purchase their own carts, which a lot of people have, especially in certain areas. And then, we also had 2 routes that we placed recycling carts at through another grant several years back. So that was probably 12 to 14,000 carts that we placed back in 2012. So there's already a lot of cart stock out there.
All right. Then you got council districts that are have sponsored over the last several years for their and that's been incentive as well. They have incentivized people getting cards by paying for half of it. So council has actually put in money to help this along as well.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's me. I paid for my cart, but I'm a pretty big recycler. Are we just giving the carts to people that have the bins now? Are these people, are we making sure that people request them and that, thereby will use them? Is it just give them to anybody that has a bin, or do we try to make sure that the people that really want them and that are going to use them are going to get them first?
That was the purpose of our audit to a big degree, is to find out who is actually doing it and ensuring that they get them first. There are a number of other people that we feel like that they would recycle if they had a cart, that they might not have a bin because those bins were distributed back in probably 2000. People move, bins move, they're damaged, and people don't know how to really get another one. So there's another percentage of people besides the people that currently recycle that would start recycling if we can get them a cart.
Okay.
And also to your point, if they see somebody else getting a cart, they could, and they say, well, what about me? Well, you start recycling this year, maybe on the next round, because remember, this is a 3-year rollout. This will also encourage people and incentivize people to go ahead and start recycling. So again, we can get another cart audit going and even add to that number in the next 2 or 3 years, because that's the whole goal, to make sure people are participating and to ensure that if they are participating, we can give them a cart. Also be mindful that after this cart distribution is done, we will be responsible, the district, to keep up the maintenance of it. So we will be maintaining these carts as well. So I know you don't see that in there, but after that happens, the maintenance part and replacing and also fixing them will again be taken care of by the division through our cart contractor as we move forward.
Okay, thank you. I guess, and one other thing, this 280,000, and I may have missed something, and I apologize if I did. This is a one-time ask, right? So it's not like in the next 3 years we're going to get, next year they're going to ask for another 100,000 or whatever. There's no plan to keep asking year after year at this point.
No, that is not the plan. This is a one-time ask. The future years will be, our planning would be to ensure that it gets into the budget. Of course, there isn't a guarantee that the Metro Council is going to fund the next couple of years, but it won't be from lack of asking. Let's put it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Pete, this is Bob. Originally, I was thinking there was 28,000 households in the USD, but I don't think that's what you're saying. How many actual households are in the district?
We believe that number to be in the 84,000 household range. How we came up with 28,000 was we took all of the recycle carts that have either been purchased or distributed through the previous grant back in 2014. And then we looked at what we believe a participation rate of about 40% is. And that's how we came up with the 28,000 that we believe that we're going to need to be able to get to every other week recycling.
So I have a question about the 3-year thing. This $280,000 is to purchase all 28,000 carts with the grant, or is this only purchasing some of those 28,000?
This would include all 28. That would be 28,000 carts. That would be the purchase.
What's the 3-year rollout thing then? Just that's going to take how long it's going to take to spend the money?
No, the next years are to get carts to people that are not currently recycling for whatever reason,
Okay.
and to get new recyclers. We don't want a cart to be the reason that people don't recycle.
And then that's be in the budget for the next 2 years, rather than something we have to ask for.
Yes. And this is Director. Hi, guys, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
much better.
Okay. Yeah, the plan is to get the council. They clearly feel there was a need to do this. And through, because the budget was so tight they didn't know what was happening with COVID. They didn't know what their expenditures were going to be. There was same. And when they did this, it was really in a lot of ways a sense of the board. As opposed to, and I think what happened, to be quite frank, I think they saw that you guys had a budget and had some money, and they assumed that it was something that was under the realm of your jurisdiction. But I will tell you that we have been talking to the city for the last 2 years, Because what we were saying is that you're going to have to be able to contribute, but because of the circumstances, they ended up not being able to. But they were basically saying that we as Metro would like to do this, and then what I'm doing, and I'll tell you, we cannot get, like Pete said, we can't guarantee that we're doing it because who knows what's going on with the budget. But they believe that it is a good deal, so that maybe we're in a position that they can kick in money, and then maybe we can get some additional money from the partnership. Is that essentially what we're trying to do, Pete?
Yes.
And to be quite frank, if they don't make the investment, then, we're not coming back to the waste district. Unless some issue comes up, but we're not coming back to the waste district. I think the city, Metro, has to invest in this.
Right.
And yeah.
And that's also, okay, I'm sorry, Director.
Yeah, they have to invest in it, but it would be difficult anyway. It would have to be would have had to been a phased in thing anyway, because like you said, there would be people that we would be buying $70 carts that would never use it. So that's where the other reason between doing the audit and everything to get to the point where we know when we're giving carts out, that people will be utilizing it. And part of this is the amount of money that is to be utilized for education and to try to get people to engage. And that it takes a while.
Pete, I did not get to write this down. How much would we be getting in the grant from the partnership?
I believe it was 721,000.
And how much from that other regional thing?
CERTIC was 350,000.
So we're getting about $1 million, roughly, real quick, roughly.
I think it's $1 million.
Grant money.
$1,021,000.
So am I correct in assuming that if the 280,000 is not appropriated by the district, we're turning down roughly $1 million of quote unquote free money?
I believe that the grant, which is the money that we have on the table, is pretty much guaranteed money. If we do not do it, we will continue to work with the partnership to make it happen in the next fiscal year. It does put us back quite a bit. And again, instead of having just one entity, Metro government, where we really don't know how they're going to move, we don't know how these funders are going to move either at that point. The thing that we have right now is pretty much guaranteed money on the table. Any kind of delay into next year could put some of that at risk, even though that the partnership has assured us that they're going to continue to work hard on getting grants even after this year. I feel like that we'll get something, but it's just not guaranteed like it is right now.
But again, what my question was is if we don't do the 280 now, there's $1 million on the table that goes away now. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that is accurate. Yes.
So can I comment?
Go ahead, Ms. Rose.
Okay. So obviously this is a good deal in that, like Bob just pointed out about the money that's on the table that this is going to leverage. And it's also a good deal in that it's going to help our recycling rate in Jefferson County, which is one of the goals of this board. My concern is about the precedents that this sets. There are two things that I'm concerned about. One is that first of all, we have to find a way to make sure that the Metro Council absolutely knows not to spend our money ever again. And I don't know how we do that, but somehow it has to be communicated to them not to plan our money in their budget. And the second thing that concerns me is that this is setting precedent. If we help Metro government with money, are we going to help any other government or any other entity that comes to us and says, we'd like to buy a garbage truck and we'd like for you all to give us 25% matching funds to do that, or we'd like to buy new recycling bins for our people, would you all give us a 25% grant? I don't see how we can say no to people if we say yes to Metro government.
Interesting point.
It's the point that I was going to make too, Mary Rose. This is Bob. I don't want this almost sounds like a slippery slope in which we become the council's bank in regards to future request. I wouldn't consider this at all if I didn't know for sure that there's no assurances or incentives or promises going forward for any other monies, because it seemed like it was awfully easy for the council in order to switch the responsibility to us. And once it happens, I think there's always a possibility for it to continue. And I would be definitely against it if I thought that this would happen again without some real thought process with the 109 board.
Well, to your point, that would be our job to make sure voice that, share that, and make that known. That's what the liaison between there. And I hear what you're saying, but we would take that responsibility to make sure that happens to both of you all. If we're able to do it this time, we would definitely echo that and make sure that is not just heard, but also embedded and practiced.
Question, please.
Well, this is just, I will say that I like the cart idea because bins, especially in my area of town, my alley, they do not get picked up. And then after a while, they run over. So the cart would alleviate some of that recycle bins, the run over and all of that. It would keep it a little bit neater for my area.
Would it be appropriate to ask why the city is short on their budget this time that they're coming to us? Does it have anything to do with expenses related to the pandemic this year? If we tell them it's a one-time situation, that they would not be expected to benefit again, do we know why they're short? Or is that not pertinent?
Well, what I would say, and I think the director had mentioned this, I think that the biggest issue is uncertainty, especially at the time that this budget was created. There was a huge amount of uncertainty with COVID and how much money would be coming in. So where are we going to be sitting in another 2 to 3 months when the next budget cycle comes around is we're definitely in a better spot than where we were during the height of the spring part of the pandemic. But we're also going into a pretty rough spot right now. So part of this is, uncertainty, and that's our issue.
So we weren't sure that we were going to get this money even to begin with. Never mind. I understand what you're saying.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I will also tell you, at the time when this was being discussed, I was saying to them, council, city, even with everything going on, that I felt that we needed to be in a position to have more carts bought In other words, I didn't think a pilot made any sense because we've been doing a pilot. We know how it works, and that the city needs to invest in more than what they could. But at the time, because of the circumstances, even to our unknowledge, because they said in the resolution to be approved by the 109 board. And I think what happened is the language in that didn't say fund, because if it said fund, we would have known about it a lot earlier. And I just thought that was about trying to keep the waste district in the loop in terms of what trying to do to try to improve the recycling thing. So we're saying that we need to, and the city needs to participate in maybe budgetary situation or whatever, but at some point they're gonna have to hit the button with the recycling carts and the garbage carts down the road. So because of the ages. So all I'm saying is we are going to do everything we can. And as I said in my little note to Pete, just like the drop-offs that you guys have participated in, just like the front end loader, and then we're paying for the personnel. It's a partnership, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that the services in Jefferson County, everybody feels it. Similar to the things that we talked about in that solid waste 10-year feasibility study. I think there's a lot more things that we can do. There's a lot more, electronic things on out months or whatever, because I think people do need that service. And to be quite frank, it's been very difficult for all, both the private and the public entities, to be able to keep track with people being home and the amount that has been increased and everything. So I would hope that we, Metro, in conjunction with the Waste District, will work towards providing those services and providing additional services out to the recycling centers, like we're doing the leaf pickup, like we're doing the drop-offs. And I think there's an enormous number of other things that we can do that will impact everybody. I still don't want to take boats, because the first time we did it a couple of years ago, last year, they tried to bring boats. But other than that, I think there's all kinds of opportunities that we have to make sure that we get out in the community. And one of the things that I had said to Karen and Pete is one of the issues that I think occurred is that we need to do a better job of telling people what the 109 board does. You know what I'm saying? I think that they don't really understand, even though we've given them the solid waste feasibility study and we've talked about it. And it's in all our communications with programming, but I think we need to do a better job. I think, for example, once the new board is approved, starts coming to the council, I think we need to go, the Waste District needs to go to the Public Works Committee, that's filmed, and just talk about what you guys are responsible. You know what I'm saying? I just don't think everybody knows the role that you guys have. And it's been a very important role. And as a partner, you guys have done a hell of a job. I am so pleased. And I think there's a lot of other things we can do. So I would hope that you guys would consider that and go forward. Because the last time the Waste District was involved was when we did the yard waste bags. Remember that? And now you know how nobody complains, nobody, you know what I'm saying? So we need to make sure that the Waste District gets out there so that people know what your role is. This is my opinion.
Well, Ms. Burns, this is Bob Lee. We've surely done our fair share in responding and joining with Metro government in order to make sure that recycling programs are going forward. And I'm sure most of us are appreciated to do so. I've got a question in regards to what is the options if we don't do this. We are on a budget period of what, Pete, October?
Metro's fiscal year runs from July 1 to June 30th.
So we would need to, in order to delay this process and try to put it in the next year's budget, we would be doing that in May or June of 2021 for the new budget period. And that would be going to the council. Is that how that works?
Now, I'll let Keith and Director speak to the budget process.
The budget is finalized in June for the fiscal year that starts in July.
But when do we start planning budget-wise? Is it February?
We're getting ready to, we'll be submitting our budget by January. And this year, and the city council has indicated that they want to participate earlier than May. They want to participate before the budget is forwarded to them. And I'll give you an example. Because of the uncertainty of the budget, the mayor put $15 million in for $10 million, I think, in for paving, right? When it got to even with the uncertainty, when it got to the council, they said no. That's a program that helps everybody in Jefferson County, right? So they put another $10 million back in the thing. So I think there's going to be a real push to try to get the council involved more so that the priorities of both the administration and the council can come out of that budget, as opposed to them reinventing the budget in the middle of May and June, robbing Peter to pay Paul. So that I think is a good thing. We made it very clear that we are asking for additional money for the carts. And but if we do not get this assist from the waste district, it just means that we're going to be behind. So it just means that everything gets pulled back another year. If the city gets money, then we might have an opportunity to get additional grants and we can get more people with the carts. But if not, let's be honest, if it's not, then we have to wait for the council administration. Council put money in it, and then hope that the partnership still has money available.
I think one other thing that I would add to that, Director, is the fact that by doing this now and getting us to every other week recycling, it helps us with our operational expenses, which those savings are pretty significant. And I believe that it would be easier to make an argument with Metro Council that, hey, we're already saving money because we've been able to switch over to every other week recycling. And it's not as though that these are going to be additional funds. It might be some, but the savings that you're going to get by switching to this every other week will help pay for the additional years of rollout.
Mr. Chairman, if I could speak to the concern that Bob and Rose raised, I think that you can communicate clearly and directly with the council about the fact, number one, that you expect this to be a one-time expenditure on this issue, and you don't want to see it come back to your desk or your feet. You can do that right in the resolution. We can amend the resolution to make it read that way. That it's from this board, it's expected to be a one-time expenditure and not to be repeated for this subject matter.
Can I ask a question, please? Do you mind, Pete? So is this considered a grant that you all are working towards? My question is, the 109 board, as you know, Jefferson County wide, makes decisions for, the countywide. I love my vendor. What if you have a city that their citizens have to provide their own carts and they want to get carts from this? Could a city apply to the 109 board to get some of these carts? Because is there a problem with only offering the service to the urban service district as opposed to offering it for the whole county? So say if I wanted 10 carts just for my park, could I come to 109 board and say, out of those 28,000 carts, I'd like 10 for my park? Do you have to offer this countywide, since it is, you can't offer it to one without offering it to everybody? That's my question.
I think the grant language is very specific as to what it would go to. I think it's a great idea that to expand the grant the next year, if we could expand it to include outside, I'm sure the partnership would be all for it if we can work out the logistics of something like that.
I think it's an absolutely great idea. I think we need to encourage folks. I don't know if you don't have the data as to how many folks that are recycling. It seems like you're buying a whole lot more carts than what you need on the onset. I don't have a problem with that. What I really want to make sure and understand is, as we get into whatever you guys decide, it has to be offered to everybody. And you're right, if that's a specific thing that says we're buying these only for urban service, then I would assume there has to come a time to where we're not outside, we're all the same thing. So to buy for one entity or to offer for one entity without offering countywide, that was my question. But I think it's a great idea to do that, to provide those. Just wanted to know what the legal thing is about offering it to everybody.
Well, let me say something, Bonnie, to that, Bonnie. I think, as Pete explained, this was a grant that the Urban Service District requested, specific to the Urban Service District. But I think if another entity in Jefferson County came to the board and said, we can get $500,000 from XYZ Foundation if we can come up with, X dollars on our own, I think the board would absolutely have to entertain that request. I don't think we could just turn it down. So I think we would absolutely have to entertain that request. Another question, Pete, based on something that Bob was saying, is this, to get this $1 million, it's a matching grant. We have to, if we come up with the 280, they will give us an additional $1 million, right?
Basically, yes.
Is there a time deadline on that?
Well, their goal was to have all of the grant agreements solidified by the end of November. And we're already up against that. And even if we accept these grants, we still have to go through legislative approval to be able to spend the grants. We can get the grants, but we can't spend them until Metro Council approves the funds. So did that answer your question, or?
Well, I guess what my basic question is, if we do not come up with, if the board does not appropriate $280,000, at what point in time does this $1 million of quote unquote free money go away?
They haven't given us a deadline. I will say that they haven't given us a deadline. We're not sure how long that it'll play out. There's a possibility that it won't go away. that it would still be there at the beginning of the next fiscal year. We're just not guaranteed that. We're at the mercy of their funders at this point. But we haven't been given a hard deadline. I know that we had a goal of the end of November, which we obviously didn't meet.
But
At this point, for the delay will really, I think, down. There's money hanging around, to be honest with you, any further delay.
well, that was going to be
They've been very gracious to us. But a delay would be a challenge. I would say that for sure.
that
Well,
was going to be my question was if we make this appropriation at the time that you notify the partnership that we have come up with the matching grant, does that then solidify this money?
Yes. Because we can move to the next funding source, which is the CERDAC, because we can't move forward with that grant until we have the 280 secured according to OMB. We can't move forward without it.
Our OMB will not let us move forward with the grant applications without secured funding.
Right. That's the part that's really important.
That's the key.
I have a question. Peter mentioned that we could revise the resolution to include that we do not want the council to come to us again with part of their budget being covered by. And I wonder when we would get the wording to that, or if we would just ask Peter to add a sentence about that. I mean, how will we vote on this tonight without that wording?
Well, I think it might be, and Peter can answer this, but I think it might be, or my suggestion, it might be something as simple as saying in the first line of the resolution, a resolution approving a one-time appropriation of blah, blah, blah. Would that satisfy it?
That probably. Does Peter think that would satisfy it? Are you there, Peter?
You're still on mute, Peter.
Sorry, that absolutely would satisfy it, and that makes a motion to amend consistent with what you just said, Bob, easily done. I mean, you can make that motion now, or that motion could be made now, or after you call the question.
Well, I'll make a motion that we amend the first line of the resolution that we're considering to say a one-time resolution. Or one-time. Where do you want the one-time to be in there?
It would be between the word and the word appropriation.
Okay.
Well, I guess grammatically it would be a resolution approving a one-time appropriation.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we amend the resolution that we're considering to say a one-time appropriation.
Do you guys see that on the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
And I will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to change the proposed resolution by adding the word okay, what's already been put in there by Pete. Okay. We have a motion and a second to amend the resolution to what's on the screen now. Is there any additional discussion?
By agreeing to amend, are we saying that we're agreeing to the full?
No, we're only saying, I mean, my motion was only to amend the resolution that we're considering. It's not.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We're amending the resolution we're considering, then we still have to approve the resolution if we so choose.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second. There's no other discussion. All those in favor saying aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the amending of the proposed resolution has been approved.
I have one other point to ask about before we even consider the approving the resolution. If I've kind of mentioned this before, but I want to emphasize that if we approve this for the Metro Service District, I think that in order to be fair to the rest of the people who we represent in all of this county, that we should be open to assisting others, governmental or otherwise, who are considering purchasing recycling bins by granting them part of their purchase price as well. And I think it would be unfair to the rest of the people in the county if we did not, make sure that we know that we're willing to do that.
Yeah, Ms. Mary Rose, to your point, we're agreeing because honestly, that's what the partnership wants to do. The partnership wants to get inside of Jefferson County in all areas. We explained to them how we are set up, and that's what they do. So we would definitely, along with the board, work that angle so that could happen. Again, like you said, we're in this together, and as we move forward, it should affect everybody.
These grants, Pete or Keith, are this grant that we're taking advantage of, are applications for those grants open to any municipality?
Bob, what I would say is if you go to their websites, you'll see that this is what they do all over the country. The CERDIC is more focused on the Southeast. But the partnership is through the entire country. And as I said in the presentation, they placed over 720,000 carts in cities all across the United States. So yeah, I believe it fits their mission. I believe it fits the Waste District's mission. And I believe it's something that Jefferson County, we've always wanted to strive to improve recycling rates all across the county. Bob, if you're there, you kind of locked up for a moment.
In Jefferson County were interested in this, there's nothing to prevent them from going to the partnership and saying what is available for us to look at.
Well, I think the first part of your conversation kind of got cut off, but if you're saying there's nothing that would prevent an entity outside of the Urban Services District from going directly to the partnership, that is absolutely correct. We'd be more than happy to introduce anyone into that.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was asking is the partnership deals with anybody, not just in this, I think you answered my question. Anybody that would be a municipality, they could go to the partnership and say, how can we participate?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess that leads us to the question of the actual resolution and appropriation. Is there anybody that wants to make a motion to proceed with this? As chairman, can I make a motion?
I believe so.
Yes.
This is Deetra. I was going to make a motion that we approve the funds for recycle cards.
Okay, we have a motion by Deetra to approve the resolution. Do we have a second?
I second that. I second Susan Hart.
Okay, we have a second by Susan. We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion from board members? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no.
Bob, I'm going to abstain.
Okay, we have one abstention on the part of Bob Lee. So I've lost count of the quorum. And does that approve the resolution?
Yes, it does. All board members are accounted for tonight.
Okay. So we have an approval of the resolution. I would like to thank every board member for taking the time to add this special meeting to your otherwise, I know, valuable time. Is there anything else from, well, this is the only thing we can consider. Is there any other information or anything else the staff would like to present while we have everybody on the line?
Well, I would like to say that I apologize for the confusion on getting into this meeting. Obviously, I believe that it's something that I have done in the settings that's causing the issue. And I want to assure everyone that I will be working on resolving the issue so that it doesn't happen going forward. I apologize.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
I just
Yeah, I would
wanted to
like-
thank everybody, because we're all working hard to do things for our community, and we're most appreciative. Thank you.
And I'd like to say, I sincerely appreciate this board for your consideration and your discussion, your honesty, and your support. We have come a long, long way. We got a long way to go, but we appreciate it. And I just want to again give a shout out and thank Pete for all that he does. And us having a little technical difficulties ain't nothing compared to what he puts into this. And so I want to thank him as well. But again, we want to thank the board for all that you do. And also thank our director for her guidance as well in her direction. And we just appreciate the support.
Thank you, Keith.
Hearing no other requests to add anything to the meeting or
Motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion to adjourn made and seconded. Again, thank you all very much for your time. The meeting will be adjourned at 6:51 on Wednesday, December 2nd.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank you, guys.
Night.
Very
Jerry, I finally able to get you something that worked, huh? Yeah, you're muted. There you go. I unmuted you.
Okay, I said, I like it once I get into it, but it was a problem getting into it.
You know, it can't be that big of a coincidence that all these people are having an issue. It has to be an issue on my part. I want to get it straightened out.
Well, and if you need to call and we have them go back and forth on this till we figure out what it is, that's fine. I'll be glad to work with you in that regard.
I appreciate you.
Now, I'm probably going to send you a couple of emails because I have just a couple of questions that I have from tonight. One is, why are we recycling? I know that's a big politically correct concept, but my understanding is that China has quit buying all of the stuff that we were sending over there that was collected for recycling. So what is being done with it? Is it still going to the landfills, or what's going to make it a project that we need to do? And then, as you and I spoke about lack of trust, I think the issue with this money is going to the Urban Services District, and it's county money. Metro